Hello, white people. Let's talk a little bit more about this Wuhan coronavirus. Experts think the Wuhan coronavirus jumped from bats to snakes to people. Bats have been the source of at least 4 pandemics. Health officials checking body temperatures of passengers arriving from Wuhan, China on Wednesday at an airport in Beijing. Look at the person on the left. I am not your father. The coronavirus spreading in China and the Sars outbreak of 2003 have 2 things in common. Both are from the coronavirus family, and both were passed from animals to humans in a wet market. I don't know what a wet market is. Sorry. Coronaviruses are zoonotic diseases, meaning they spread to people from animals, like rabies. Because wet markets put people and live and dead animals, dogs, chickens, pigs, snakes, civets, and more, in close contact, it can be easy for a virus to make an interspecies jump. No. It's usually through injury. It comes in through broken skin. But anyway. Poorly regulated live animal markets mixed with illegal wildlife trade offer a unique opportunity for viruses to spill over from wildlife hosts into the human population, the Wildlife Conservation Society said in a statement on Thursday. In the case of SARS and probably this coronavirus outbreak too, the bats were the original hosts. They then infected other animals via their poop or saliva. Okay, I'm going to stop here. So from what I understand, watching Megabatty, that is a YouTube channel where she rescues bats, mostly the flying foxes who have the cute little dog face, and occasionally she will rescue the little microbats. So they're talking about microbats here being the culprit. She says that in order to get the lyssavirus, which is an Australian rabies virus, is that the bat has to lick their claws or their thumb little claw and scratch you. And if she rescues a bat and she finds out that it scratched a human or an animal, they have to kill the animal, euthanize the animal, and then send it off for testing. And the unwitting intermediaries transmitted the virus to humans. Bats and birds are considered reservoir species for viruses with pandemic potential, Bart Hagmans, a virologist at the Erasmus Medical Center in Rotterdam, Netherlands, told Business Insider. In the past 45 years, at least 3 other pandemics besides SARS have been traced back to bats. The creatures were the original source of Ebola, which has killed 13,500 people in multiple outbreaks since 1976. Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, better known as MERS, and we're going to call it the camel diddle syndrome, don't touch the dirty camels, which can be found in 28 countries, and the Nipah virus, which has a 78% fatality rate. Look at this cute little guy. This is a horseshoe bat. The coronavirus might have jumped from bats to snakes to people. This is a greater horseshoe bat, a relative of the Rhinolophocynicus bat species from China. That was the origin of the SARS virus. All right, so I'm going to give you some information about the bat here, but we're going to go after we go through this article. Not all coronaviruses are deadly. The ones endemic to humans, like the common cold, are often considered inconsequential. The coronaviruses that pose a pandemic risk, however, are those that hang out in animals. Because these viruses have not been circulating in humans before, specific immunity to these viruses is absent in humans, Hagman said. All right, so I'll give you a brief rundown on how your immune system works. Okay, say, for example, a virus knocks on your door of your immune system, knock, knock, knock. We're here. They come in, they break into your house, they find your refrigerator, they find the refrigerator in the garage, and they eat all your food, and then they have a bunch of kids. It's sort of like an illegal invasion, right? And then your immune system says, hey, wait a minute, you stop that. And then they round them up and kick them out. And when they kick them out, they chip them. And so when that virus comes back, they have to go through the scanner, and the alarms are set off, and the soldiers come and say, no, illegal virus, you can't come here, get out. And so that's how you have an immunity. I hope that was kind of a fun analogy. Anyway, the coronavirus that emerged in Wuhan I don't know why I keep calling it Wuhan has so far killed 26 people and infected more than 900. All right, so killed 26 people because they developed pneumonia from this, and they know that these people died from this virus because they took sputum samples, either opened up their lungs and took it out, or they coughed it up into a petri dish, and that was sent off to the CDC for testing. That's a good thing to know because, we want to make sure that they're not lying to us, since the media always lies to us. Let's see, infected more than 900. Okay, so 900 people got pneumonia or 900 people got a cold. Experts haven't yet confirmed the animal species that enabled it to spread to people, but they have some guesses. Scientists in China compared the genetic code of the Wuhan coronavirus to other coronaviruses and found it to be most similar to 2 bat coronavirus samples. There is an indication that it's a bat virus. Vincent Munster, that's Eddie Munster's brother, a scientist at Rocky Mountain Laboratories, told Business Insider. According to a group of scientists who edit the Journal of Medical Virology, the intermediary species in this case could be the Chinese cobra. All right, so later in the video here, we're going to talk about the relationship between the Chinese cobra and the horseshoe bat and see if there is one. And see, this guy, isn't he cute? Put your hood away there, dude. Chinese cobra with its hood spread. That's because further genetic analysis showed that the genetic building blocks of the Wuhan coronavirus closely resembled that of snakes. They earlier say it was related to bats. I mean, they got to get their story straight. So the researchers think a population of bats could have infected snakes, which passed the virus to humans as they were being sold at the Hunan wholesale seafood market in Wuhan. Okay, God, what a tangled web we weave. But the only way to be sure about where the virus came from is to take DNA samples from animals sold at the market and from wild snakes and bats in the area. Why bats pose such a threat? Bats harbor a significantly higher proportion of zoonotic viruses than other mammals, according to a 2017 study. Experts think that because bats can fly across large geographical ranges, transporting diseases as they go, that makes them an ideal host. All right, so we're going to stop here. Now, and later in the article, we'll figure out where these bats hang out between eating their meals. Here's a picture. A nurse wearing protective gear outside a Sars clinic in Toronto. Ooh, that's Canada. Bats pass along viruses in their poop. They do? Okay. If they drop feces onto a piece of fruit that had if they drop feces onto a piece of fruit that a different animal then eats, the creature can become a carrier. I'm going to have to give that one some thought. We know a fair amount of viruses in the World Health Organization's blueprint list of priority diseases have either a direct or indirect link with bats, Munster said. The list includes the Sars and MERS viruses. Last March, a study even predicted that bats could be the source of a new coronavirus outbreak in China. All right, let's see. It is highly likely that future SARS or MERS, like coronavirus outbreaks, will originate from bats, and there is an increased probability that this will occur in China, the researchers wrote. It will occur in China. Oh boy, that doesn't sound like a setup, does it? That's because the majority of coronaviruses, those that circulate both in humans and in animals, can be found in China. Plus, the study authors said most of the bat hosts of these coronaviruses live near humans in China, potentially transmitting viruses to humans and livestock. What's this a picture of? People in their little don't get me icky suits. A doctor checking equipment at a SARS screening room at Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia in 2003. The bat population from which the SARS virus originated, for example, lived in a cave just over 1 kilometer or about a half mile from the nearest village. Similarly, a 2017 study warned that the risk of spillover into people and emergence of a disease similar to SARS is possible. The authors identified at least 300 separate strains of coronavirus still circulating in bats. How SARS, MERS, and Ebola jumped from bats to people. Here are 5 viruses that most likely came from bats and how the outbreaks compare. All right, let's see if we can figure this little chart out. Wuhan coronavirus virus compared to other major virus. Ebola, year, okay, so 1976. Cases, deaths, fatality rate, number of countries. All right, so folks, the first one was 1976. They never had anything before that. You know that the government's creating these viruses, right? And they're pinning it on my cute little bats. Researchers traced SARS to a population of horseshoe bats in China, Yunnan province. Humans caught it from weasel-like mammals called masked palm civets at a wet market in Guangdong. Wet market. From 2002 to 2003, SARS killed 774 people across 29 countries and infected more than 8,000. Patients experienced fevers, headaches, and a type of deadly pneumonia that could cause respiratory failure. Now look at that. If he didn't have those fangs, he'd be a little bit cuter. An Asian palm civet in a cage at the Kopi Luwak farm and plantation in Ubud on the Indonesian island of Bali on November 20th, 2018. He's still cute. Look at those ears. MERS similarly passed from bats to dromedary camels in the Middle East. The coronavirus circulated in the camel population undetected for decades before jumping to humans in 2012. Okay, you want me to believe that? Circulated? Oh, Jesus. So far, 858 people have died in 28 countries from the illness, which comes with fever, cough, and shortness of breath. In Southeast Asia, fruit bats were the original hosts of the deadly Nipah virus, which emerged in Malaysia in 1998, then again in India in 2001. The bats passed to farmed pigs, which gave it to people. Patients experienced headaches and vomiting. Many slipped into a coma and died. You don't die from headaches and vomiting. I mean, you have to puke your guts up so much and not be able to eat, and then you die of electrolyte balance and dehydration. Oh, God. Oh, boy. Fruit bats in Africa have played a major role in Ebola outbreaks since 1976. The worst Ebola outbreak in history, however, came from a population of long-fingered bats. More than 11,000 people were killed from 2013 to 2016. How to prevent zoonotic diseases from spilling over into people. At wet markets, the close proximity of shoppers to stall vendors and live and dead animals creates a prime breeding ground for zoonotic diseases. No, not cleaning up the place creates breeding ground for that. For cultural reasons in the region, people want to see the specific animals they're buying be slaughtered in front of them so they know they're receiving the products they paid for. I wonder where that distrust came from. According to Emily Langdon, an infectious disease specialist at University of Chicago Medicine, that means there's a lot of skinning dead animals in front of shoppers and, as a result, aerolizing all sorts of things. I just blows my mind. Okay. On Wednesday, authorities in Wuhan banned the trade of live animals at these markets. Officials closed the seafood market where the coronavirus outbreak is thought to have started. Experts support this type of intervention to help prevent the spread of viruses. Governments must recognize the global public health threats of zoonotic diseases. Christian Walzer, the executive director of the Wildlife Conservation Society's health program, said, oh my God, what a long title, in a statement, "It is time to close live animal markets that trade in wildlife, strengthen efforts to combat trafficking of wild animals, and work to change dangerous wildlife consumption behaviors, especially in cities." You know, these people they eat these wild animals because of the government has blocked people in and cut off their regular food source, so they had to go out and they had to find new things to eat. That's why they eat dogs in China. Let's see, a chicken vendor sleeping on top of chicken cages at the Haowang Road Wet Market in Kowloon City, China in 2004. No reported chickens. But according to Eric Toner, a senior scientist at Johns Hopkins University, more animal-to-human disease outbreaks are likely to arise even without wet markets. Oh boy. I thought for a long time that the most likely virus that might cause a new pandemic would be a coronavirus, Toner told Business Insider. We're in an age of epidemics because of globalization, because of encroachment on wild environments. The Wuhan coronavirus outbreak isn't considered a pandemic, however. The World Health Organization has so far not declared it a global public health emergency since China has quarantined Wuhan and other nearby cities to stop the virus. Oh my God, we finally made it through here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, let's see here. Oh, horseshoe bats. Okay. So these little horseshoe bats, you can find them in tropical regions, southern Europe, Africa, Asia, and northern and eastern Australia. All species are insectivorous. All right, so these horseshoe bats are extremely important to control the insect population. Without these bats, the insects are going to go crazy, and if people think that they got a problem with any sort of illness passed by bats, they're going to be in a world of hurt when they get diseases passed by insects, because the only way to control insects is by using poison, and boy, that causes a whole lot of problems in itself. Anyway, let's see, they capture insects in flight. Their roost habitats are diverse. Some species are found in large colonies in caves, some prefer hollow trees, and others sleep in the open among the branches of trees. Members of northern populations may hibernate during the winter, while a few are known to estivate. At least one species is migratory, like many Vespertiliondae bats. All right, let's go to a different article here, this one. Bat cave solves mystery of deadly Sars virus and suggests new outbreak could occur. When is this one dated? December 2017. Chinese scientists find all the genetic building blocks of Sars in a single population of horseshoe bats. Look at that cute little feta. After a detective hunt across China, researchers chasing the origin of the deadly Sars virus have finally found their smoking gun. In a remote cave in Yunnan province, virologists have identified a single population of horseshoe bats that harbor virus strains with all the genetic building blocks of the one that jumped to humans in 2002, killing almost 800 people around the world. The killer strain could easily have arisen from such a bat population. The researchers report on PLOS pathogens on 30 November. They warn that the ingredients are in place for a similar disease to emerge again. In late 2002, a case of mystery pneumonia-like illness began occurring in the Guangdong province, southeastern China. The disease, dubbed severe acute respiratory syndrome, triggered a global emergency as it spread around the world in 2003, infecting thousands of people. Scientists identified the culprit as a strain of coronavirus and found genetically similar viruses in masked palm civets. That cute little thing I showed you with the fangs, sold in Guangdong's animal markets. Later surveys revealed large number of SARS-related coronaviruses circulating in China's horseshoe bats. How could a survey? Okay, whatever. Not a written survey, just like monitoring, probably a survey, suggesting that the deadly strain probably originated in the bats and later passed through civets before reaching humans. Now we gotta stop. Now we gotta look up the civets and see how the civets and the bats are related. But crucial genes for a protein that allows the virus to latch onto and infect cells were different in the human and known bat versions of the virus, leaving room for doubts about this hypothesis. Ooh, doubts. Bat hunt. To clinch the case, a team led by Shi Zheng Li and Kui Ji of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, remember this is 2017, in China, Wuhan Institute, ding, 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 sampled thousands of horseshoe bats in locations across the country. That means, folks, that they killed thousands of bats, all right? So now we have a hysteria where they're killing thousands of creatures that control the insect population. China is setting itself up for a big freaking disaster. The most challenging work is to locate the caves, which usually are in remote areas. All right, so if the bats are in remote areas, how is it that they are coming in contact with creatures that end up in markets to be sold and, or, you know, slaughtered in front of their new owners or purchasers or whatever you want to call them? How's this going on? The most challenging work is locating the caves, which usually are in remote areas. Says we, after finding a particular cave in Yunnan, southwestern China, in which the strains of coronavirus looked similar to human versions, the researchers spent 5 years monitoring the bats that live there, collecting fresh guano and taking anal swabs. What? Taking anal swabs? Oh God. They were touching the bats' pooper holes. Yuck. They sequenced the genomes of 15 viral strains. Hold on a minute here. Do you think these bats are getting these infections from the bugs they're eating? But anyway. They sequenced the genomes of 15 viral strains from the bats and found that taken together, the strains contain all the genetic pieces that make up the human version. Although no single bat had the exact strain of Sars coronavirus that is found in humans, the analysis showed that the strains mix often. The human strain could have emerged from such mixing, says Kwok Young Kwok. Oh, that's a terrible name. Mother must have hated you. A virologist at the University of Hong Kong who co-discovered the SARS virus. The author should be congratulated for confirming what has been suspected. But Cheng Chon Tu, a virologist who directs the OIE reference laboratory for rabies in Chengchun, China, says the results are 99% persuasive. He would like to see scientists demonstrate in the lab that the human SARS strain can jump from bats to other animals such as a civet. If this could have been done, the evidence would be perfect, he says. Travel trouble. Another outstanding question is how a virus from bats in Yunnan could travel to animals and humans around 1,000 kilometers away in Guangdong without causing any suspected cases in Yunnan itself. That has puzzled me a long time, says Chu. These names. Sui and Shi are searching for other bat populations that could have produced strains capable of infecting humans. The researchers have now isolated some 300 bat coronavirus sequences, most not yet published, with which they will continue to monitor the virus's evolution. And they warned that a deadly outbreak could emerge again. The cave where the elements of SARS were found is just 1 kilometer from the nearest village, and genetic mixing among the viral strains is fast. The risk of spillover into people and emergence of a disease similar to SARS is possible, the authors write in their paper. Although many markets selling animals in China have already been closed or restricted following the outbreaks of SARS and other infectious diseases, UN agrees that the latest results suggest the risk is still present. It reinforces the notion that we should not disturb wildlife habitats and never put wild animals into markets, says UN. Really? Respecting nature, he argues, is the way to stay away from the harm of emerging infections. Okay, let's see. What do we got here next? We're going to move on to, the snakes. Snakes could be the original source of the new coronavirus outbreak in China. The conversation is an an independent and nonprofit source of news, analysis, and commentary from academic experts. Haito Guo University of Pittsburgh. What? Haito Guo. All right. Here's another one. Guangxing George Luo University of Alabama at Birmingham. And Shu Jiangao of University of Pittsburgh. Why the fuck are these foreigners in our country? The conversation, snakes. The Chinese crate and the Chinese cobra may be the original source of the newly discovered coronavirus that has triggered an outbreak of a deadly infectious respiratory illness in China this winter. The illness was first reported in late December 2019 in Wuhan, a major city in central China, that has been rapidly spreading since then. Sick travelers from Wuhan have infected people in China and other countries, including the United States. Using samples of the virus isolated from patients, scientists in China have determined the genetic code of the virus and used microscopes to photograph it. The pathogen responsible for this pandemic is a new coronavirus. It's in the same family of viruses as the well-known severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus SARS and the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome coronavirus MERS, which have killed hundreds of people in the past 17 years. The World Health Organization has named the new coronavirus 2019 lowercase n, uppercase C, lowercase o, uppercase V. We are virologists and journal editors and are closely following this outbreak because there are many questions that need to be answered to curb the spread of this public health threat. Coronavirus is transmitted through the air and primarily infects the upper respiratory and gastrointestinal tract of mammals and birds. Though most of the members of the coronavirus family only cause mild flu-like symptoms during infection, SARS and MERS can infect both upper and lower airways and cause severe respiratory illness and other complications in humans. This new 2019 virus causes similar symptoms to SARS, MERS. People infected with these coronaviruses suffer a severe inflammatory response. We were still not talking about the snakes. Let's see if I can... Now, these viruses can be transmitted from person to person. Field studies have revealed that the original source of SARS and MERS is the bat, and that the masked palm civets, a mammal native to Asian Africa, and camels, respectively, served as intermediate hosts between bats and humans. But how? King cobra, what do you eat? Let's see, king cobras eat lizards, toads, small mammals, eggs, chickens, birds, and even other snakes. Do they eat bats? As mentioned on other pages of our website as well, is that snakes are carnivores and they like to swallow their prey alive and whole for the most part. However, king cobra snakes sometimes first bite their prey to subdue them, and then once the venom kills the prey, they will swallow it whole. After a king cobra swallows its prey, it will often lay in the sun for many hours at a time to help increase their body temperature, which helps with the digestive process. It is at this point when the king cobra snakes are most vulnerable. Let's see. One cool other thing to note about king cobras is that after they eat a meal, they can go for months without eating because they are cold-blooded creatures and do not use a lot of energy to live. So what do they eat? Let's see here. See, do the king cobras eat bats? Things that eat bats. Bats have an amazing ability to use radar to avoid obstacles. Then they show a fruit bat on the left, which is a sight bat, as well as predators, but there are some predators who have these night flyers figured out. Some swoop suddenly out of nowhere, grabbing bats in flights before the bats can react. Others wait until daylight when the bats are sleeping to attack them in their roosts. Mammals. A variety of mammals eat bats when they can. Animals such as weasels, minks, and raccoons climb into areas where bats roost and eat them while they sleep during the day. These mammals also lie in wait just outside a bat roosting area to pounce on bats as they enter and exit the roost. Some larger bats prey on smaller bats when they share bat habitat areas. Birds have an advantage over some mammals because they can catch bats in flights. Birds such as owls, hawks, and common grackles grab bats out of the sky, particularly when they are leaving and entering a roost. The narrow openings of many roosts cause bats to group together, making it easier for birds to swoop down and grab a tasty bat treat. Snakes are common bat hunters, but there are a few that are a bit more surprising. Some fish, for example, wait until the bats fly close to the top of the water in search of insects and grab them from below. Bullfrogs use similar technique, lying in wait until a bat flies close enough to catch. People eat bats. In some areas of Africa, fruit bats can carry the Ebola virus, which is transmitted to humans who eat those bats. Ebola is extremely contagious. When a human contracts Ebola, he can transmit it easily to many other people through something as simple as a handshake. Oh, fantastic. Hasn't this been a fun little rabbit hole that we've fallen into? Oh, wait, but there's more. Bats and Ebola, the facts. This is from batworld.org. Why are bats always blamed for epidemics like Ebola? Unlike humans, bats can harbor diseases without becoming sick because they have a natural immunity. In fact, bats are natural reservoirs for more than 60 viruses that, although rarely, can infect humans such as Ebola, rabies, and histoplasmosis. The important thing to understand is that bats aren't just flying around willy-nilly spreading diseases to humans. It's the way humans are treating bats that is allowing these diseases to spread. For example, humans are hunting and eating bats, a common practice in Africa, encroaching on bat habitat to raise livestock and build homes, and even harvesting bats for the cruel exotic pet trade. So then, who is to blame for the spread of Ebola? Watch the video and see. Okay, let's watch the video. Hopefully there's no dumb commercials.
Nipah, Hendra, Ebola, Marburg, Sars. These are some of the world's scariest viruses. Hemorrhagic fevers like Ebola are extremely fatal. They kill up to 90% of people infected, while SARS, a coronavirus, has a lower mortality rate but spreads incredibly rapidly. All of these nasty pathogens have surfaced in humans in just the last 50 years, and they are all carried by bats. Which, to be clear, really isn't bats' fault. The recent rise in outbreaks is likely due to humans and our animals creeping ever farther into bats' territory, especially in the tropics. In Malaysia, for example, the spread of commercial pig farms into bat-inhabited forests led to the first human outbreak via pigs of Nipah. And in Australia, human Hendra cases are cropping up as destruction of native forests forces fruit bats to feed in suburban gardens. But still, bats do appear to carry more human-killing diseases than pretty much any other animal. One big reason is that, with a few notable exceptions, bats love company. Different kinds of bats often roost together in huge numbers and close quarters, which helps viruses spread, not just between individuals, but also between species. What's more, most infected bats don't die. They live pretty normal bat lives, flapping around and giving the viruses time to spread. In fact, flight may be the reason bats are so resilient to infection. As a rule, mammals can't produce the immense amounts of energy needed for flight without also producing a lot of reactive waste products that damage our DNA. So when our bat cousins took to the air, they leveled up their in-flight DNA damage repair kits and other defenses, including specialized cells that keep viral invaders in check. So bats can survive the deadly viruses. But what may matter even more, for humans anyway, is how the viruses survive the bats. Nasty as they are, most viruses are also extremely finicky. In order to thrive, they require the perfectly controlled climate inside a normal, resting, on-the-ground mammal. But when bats take to the air, their internal temperatures cruise to around 40 degrees Celsius. Those frequent in-flight saunas are far too toasty for your average virus, but a few hardy viruses have evolved to tolerate the heat, which incidentally means they can definitely weather a meager human fever. Essentially, flight may have helped bats gain virtual immunity to viruses and train viruses to be virtually immune to us. Stupid flying. So what should we land lovers do? We need bats for insect control and pollination and a whole bunch of other things. Maybe we could even learn some immune tricks from them, like how to be really good at not getting cancer. Plus, bats aren't the biggest carriers of human disease. Humans are. Just do the math. Perhaps we'd be better off leaving bats alone and trying to control the spread of diseases carried by a different kind of flying mammal.
was cute. All right, internet friends, that's the damage for now. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to your comments below.